Welcome to Honest Combos with Carin
and Marcia. We're longtime biz besties bringing you along for the journey of building a business and life you actually want.
No fluff, no filters, just honest conversations about the highs, the lows, and everything in between.
So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's get into it.
Welcome back to Honest Combos. And in this episode, we're going to talk about visibility and playing small. And this is part one of a two-part conversation because I don't think we can have the conversation about visibility and playing small without also talking about the opposite, which is how do you show up and how do you play big? So that'll be in the next week's episode. But today we're just talking about like what is really under the hiding. Like, why are we hiding when we hide? Why are we not playing full out? I mean, none of us are going to escape this thing called life alive, right? We do know that. But like when you really soak that in, it's like, what are we holding back for? Like, we only get one shot, one time to live this life. And so we want to talk through like what is holding us back from fully being like standing in our power and showing up 100% for whatever it is for your business, for your life. So we're going to talk through that today and I'm really excited. Marcia, what do you think?
I'm excited for this conversation too, because I know that the person that's listening to this, they're likely a solopreneur, like a creative type person. And big businesses, they can have an entire marketing department and they can hide behind the scenes. The CEO can be someone that you've never heard of. But when you are running a heart centered business and you're providing a service or product or whatever, like you do need to be visible. So even actors and actresses and anyone, professors, like anybody in any type of career, like there's training and there's exposure and there's experience that goes to being able to be visible. Are we going to get right into it, Carin? Am I going to share some of my visibility things and how I've played small?
Absolutely. Right. That's what we're here for. We get into it, guys. You know it. And we have a little bit of an outline and a flow. We're upgrading our process,
Yes.
but I mean, this is still very much off the cuff. So yeah, let's roll into it.
For me, one of the reasons why I've had some difficulty, especially in the past year since going back out on my own, was I wasn't really sure or confident in what I wanted to do. And now with the Success Secret Society and also being a success strategist, I do want to work one on one with people who basically know that they need to up level or get out of their own way, like what it is that is standing in their way. So prior to that, showing up was difficult for me because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. But now, like once I landed on that, like, okay, I want to talk about success. I want to talk about all of the experience that I've had with other successful people and how it is that they're living lives and running businesses that they love. I feel like I can do case studies now. I feel like there's just so many different ways that I can focus on it. And that was one of my big issues was not knowing what I wanted to talk about, not being singularly focused. Now that I know that it's about success, I can basically spin any story, any conversation to be like, give examples of how this is either being successful or not being successful. So yeah, so that was one of the things was just that vague understanding of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to share. Also, if you're new here, I had a pretty strong idiot complex because I had a hard time learning and like formal education doesn't work so well for me. So it took me a long time to figure out how I actually am able to learn and process information. And that's experiential. And I love that our school systems do that now. Like there's different opportunities for kids to actually learn instead of listen to a teacher write notes and then take a test and fail over and over and over. It's the worst. Anyway, that was also another way that I was afraid of being visible because I knew that I didn't know everything, and I was afraid that if I said something dumb or stupid and I didn't know it exactly, that somebody would call me on it or I would be spreading misinformation, which I never wanna do. So, usually if I don't know something though, I'll do a little disclaimer that's like, "Hey, just so you know," like when we were talking about closing businesses, we're like, "We are not attorneys, so fact check this for yourself." I think my other thing too, just fear of physical security. I do think that for women, it is difficult to be out there, to be visible. There can be some really gross people there. Like, I did a TikTok the other day and I was wearing like a lined camisole that's like my uniform at home. And I got like DMs from guys like, and I'm just like, ew, absolutely not. Like, that's always bothered me too. And that's all I'm comfortable with sharing right now.
Well, no, I mean, I totally can relate to that because I've had some really weird DMs myself. So when I was preparing for this episode, I looked back at like kind of my journey, right? Like I started in on 12/12/2012, which I just love that date. And I had my first business I pivoted quickly away from because I was like, I don't want to do this all day. But I started a blog for that business because I was like, okay, that's what I have to do to get visible, to get visible, I have to write and I like to write. And when I pivoted that blog into kind of like a mommy blog, right? Memoirs of a Clueless Woman, that was my favorite. I love those were some fun times. But anyway, I remember I had an article that went viral with HuffPost where I talked about why I invade my teenager's privacy. This is when my older son, who's almost 28 now, I think he was like 16, I don't remember. And I mean, viral, it was, I was like, this is what it's like. Like, this is cool. Like, so many people have seen it. And then I made the mistake of reading the comments, right? And so there were a lot that were like, this is a great mom. She's doing the right thing. That's what you gotta be in their business. And then there were the flip side, right? And it was the ones that loved my approach were more. But of course, that's not what I focused on, right? I focused on the handful that were like, you're a terrible parent. Your kids are gonna hate you. And, what would you like it if someone came in your room and da da da. That was the first time because I came out the gate, I didn't really have a visibility hang up at all, right? I was like, okay, whatever I got to do, I'm here to do it. That experience was the first time that I started to shrink because I'm like, oh, like maybe I'm not safe to share my ideas and my thoughts because people aren't going to like them. And that's the first time I started to have fear of like judgment or what people are going to think, or am I going to sound stupid or say the wrong thing or say it the wrong way? And so, like, I tried to push past it. I kept showing up, I kept doing things. But I think, like, I don't think I've ever lost that initial, oh, and that little initial shrink that happened. So it's just interesting to think back, like, that's where it started. And so I'm trying to like work through it even now because I mean, don't go to my Instagram. I don't even remember the last time I posted on there. But like when I'm sure about what I'm talking about, when I know my stuff, when I'm like, this is going to be the best good you ever got, I show up like crazy. Like you'll even know, like if you do go to my Instagram, you will notice there was a very visible period. I was like posting videos and quotes and all the things were happening. And I left it there because sometimes I'll go hide stuff because I'm like, okay, I'm over that. I don't want to see that anymore. But there is like a little journey you can go through in Karen's history of being visible on my Instagram. But when I think kind of like what you said, when I'm not really sure what I want to do or what I want to say, I go dark. I don't know any other way. Like I don't know how to like show up, but also not really know what I'm talking about. So I'm noticing that now of like now that I'm getting more sure, like before this episode, me and Marcia were just talking like about like what we're working on and like I have like crystal clarity about what my business will focus on, what I'm going to be coaching on, all that stuff. So now I'm like, okay, time to make some videos, time to do that. Like that surety does create a little bit of a foundation. And so that is a piece that I think a lot of times, even when I'm working with my clients, like if they don't know exactly what they're promoting, what they're gonna like, what is their like marketing process, what is their sales process. You don't really want the eyeballs if you don't know what's gonna happen next after they're looking at you. So that's gonna stop you every time from being visible. And I know we'll talk about that more in the next episode when we talk about the tools, but I think that's important to think about. Like, if you have a visibility hang up, like, was there a moment that started it all? Like for me, it was those, you're a terrible mom. So those comments still sit with me, even though I mean, I'm not terrible. My kids love me. We're great friends, even as they're now adults. And so I'm like, I know I did a good job, but still like I can go find that article now and read it and it will still bother me. So like you have to just be honest about like what is that where is the hang up starting, because if you don't do that you can't move, you can't work through it, you can't push past it. And then if you aren't sure about like what are you selling, what are you promoting, what is your process for turning the eyeballs into dollars, then that's also going to be something that will stop you from getting the eyeballs in the first place.
Agreed. Sorry we had to revisit your trauma. It's hard, isn't it? Cuz like you never know what is going to stick with you and just like cause this huge like ripple effect. And so that's why we 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 try to celebrate everything, like every win that we have, but that's just human psychology, is to focus on the negative, because that's what it's our brain's way of thinking that it's going to protect us from in the future being hurt again. And the only thing that ends up being hurt is like the people that you're actually supposed to impact with whatever work you are doing. And I loved what you said about like going dark when there isn't that clarity, and I 100% like agree with this, because there's so much freaking noise out there, and I just don't want to add to it. Like if I don't know what it is that I'm interested in talking about, then I'm not just going to waste people's time. That's just not in my nature. So, yeah, like having that clarity on what it is that you want to do and the impact that you want to make, and then basically like creating some systems and formulas that we'll talk about in the next episode. But it's funny because Ryan and I were walking the dogs last night, and our neighborhood, there's a lot of shade. So there's a lot of hostas. Do you know the hosta plants, Karen? Okay, yeah. Hostas are so wild though, because like in the winter, they're completely underground. Like you don't see them. And then all of a sudden, it's like you kind of start to see the buds come up. And like I've just been watching them because I'm at that age, like it's birds next. I'm gonna be into the birds next. But like now it's like plants. And I just like walk by my neighbors' yards, and there's these hosta plants that are freaking the size of like tiny cars in Italy. But they started out from nothing. And I'm like, Ryan, I'm a hosta. I'm like, in the winter, I'm just completely underground. I go dark. And like, that's just I don't know, it's like my recovery time or whatever. But like around summer, but also fall, like fall is like October is like my watch out, but then it's like I go hard. And then by like January, no, usually like February. So February to like April or something, that's when I'm underground. It's funny because with visibility, like you don't have to, it's like authors aren't constantly cranking out books. And if they do, it's not quality stuff, like if they have a book deal and they have to publish every year, like maybe they have this amazing book that they come out with, and then someone picks them up and then they're cranking it out. It's not going to be as quality because there's a timeline and it's rushed. Karen, you're shaking your head a lot, or you're nodding your head a lot. So do you want to
Yeah,
jump?
I think like what you just said about like part of it too is working with your natural rhythms and not against it, right? And they're like, let's level set for a second. There is no right or wrong way, okay? Like everything works, everything is successful. It's you that makes it work and makes it successful. Like doing the strategies, the showing up on the platforms, be like if it's writing, if it's video, if it's audio, like whatever works for you is the thing to do, right? So that also includes the timing. I don't care if a guru says you got to post at noon, 9 a.m., 8 a.m., do a story 12 times a day. Put all of that out of your head. Just think about yourself, like what works for your natural rhythms, times of day, days of the week. If it's like, my promotions are usually X through Y, like I'm only going to show up, or, you don't have to do it any other way than whatever way works for you. Of course, working with someone can help you like kind of figure that out and map it out and have a good strategy. But I just want to encourage you to like, don't follow what someone else says is the only thing that works, because everybody claims that they have the only thing that works, by the way. How's that possible, right? Like everything is working. So how is your thing the only thing that works? It's the thing that's going to work for you because it's what gets you excited to show up. It's the thing that, it's the way you want to be visible, whether again, that's audio or video or writing, or, I mean, you just have to pick what feels good to you, because that energy that you're going to bring when you're doing something that's in alignment, look, there goes our word. Where's your bingo card, guys? Is like, that's going to be the key. Like what, the energy people feel, even in your writing. I mean, even when I was thinking back to my blog and how popular it got and how much people loved it, like people can even feel through words. No video, no audio, wasn't doing all that back then, but it was still like hitting. It was hitting. People were loving it, sharing it, following it, all the things. So again, and it still works now. People still do writing. I mean, people have paid newsletters where they just sending you a email with a blog post basically, and they're building $1 million businesses. So again, everything works. Just figure out what works for you and feels good to you so that you can show up and work with your natural rhythms. If that means that you take summers off because you're going to go to Italy, like some people recently did, then you can do that, right? You don't have to be showing up for those 3 months. If you want to be off, be off. So again, just I really want that point to be like crystal clear, because if you're not doing this the way that works for you, then you're not going to stay consistent. And we've learned that the hard way.
You and I, like we know what our strengths are now, and our strengths were always there, but I think we got the background noise is what kind of distracted us. In the sneak peek yesterday, we were like looking back and it's like it is all connected. It was just not, it wasn't the right timing. And so like when you're creating a body of work, are you guys okay? Like I swear they want to be in the podcast. Like episode 6, I hear like Tank like kind of like talking a little. I'm like, okay, you guys are too much. But anyway, it's basically like creating a body of work that is true to what you say, because I go back and I look at some of my Instagrams, because like that Instagram handle that I have now, it's my name, Marcia D Sheehan, because Marcia Sheehan. Don't get me started, Karen. I've already complained about this enough, but it was like Charm Cardinals. That was the handle, so the handle has changed over the years. Yeah, I look back at some of that content. I'm like, oh dang, like I've been talking about this for a while, but it's not, I'm just saying what is coming to me and I'm using my intuition. And but it's funny because like when you do go dark, like it's always when something in the like in real life is out of alignment. Like for me it was the jobs. Like I just couldn't even, I couldn't create. So that was one of the reasons why I think I was not as visible. And that's fine because it's seasons, and it just like helps solidify what it is that I do want to talk about, mindset and intentional living, that kind of thing. Okay, so signs that you're playing small. Well, how about we do signs that other people, because we've got kind of personal here. We have to record another one, so I
Yeah.
don't want to be too.
Yes.
Promising.
Yeah, I think if you notice that you are not like you want to show up, but you're not showing up. Like that's definitely a sign that you're playing small, because you have the desire. Like it's different if you don't have the desire. That's a whole different conversation. We can talk about that in another one. But if you have that desire to show up, but you're not showing up, then you're definitely playing small. Just gonna call it like I see it. And you need to unpack it, right? You really have to unpack it so that you can work through it and move past it. But like if you're not pitching yourself, you're not charging what you want to be charging. I mean, I know we talked a lot about that already, and I mean pricing is an ongoing conversation as well. But if you're like avoiding sharing stuff that you want to share, like maybe spending months building a funnel and then not telling anyone it exists, like that kind of stuff. Not like I've done that or anything. So if you go to like events and stuff, and I mean, you got yourself there, so you're like, okay, I mean, at least I'm here. But then like you don't talk to anyone or you don't really make any effort to have a conversation and be a part of the community that you showed up for, then you're playing small because you're not fully investing all of the energy that you can into the things that are actually going to move you forward. They're going to move your business forward. They're going to bring you your goals that you want to achieve, all the things. So that, yeah, those are some signs. Like if you're noticing that behavior in yourself, it's time for like a mirror moment to really just like unpack it and work through it so you can stop.
Yeah, I think something that I noticed too is the distracting ourselves with other projects. So that's like a surefire way. Like if you are doing something and you're finding success in it and you're making progress, but then you're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna work on this other thing over here," and it's like slamming on the brakes when you should be like pushing the accelerator. Like I feel like that is definitely one of those upper limit moments where like you need to just really look at it and be like, okay, what is it that's scaring me? One of the things, I talk a lot about like mental health, and back when I was sober, I talked about sobriety a lot. One of the things that used to really scare me was I was always afraid that if I was honest about all of the issues that I had with anxiety and depression and all of that, that my kids would get taken away from me. Like I was afraid that like if Ryan and I didn't work out and we got divorced, then they'd be like, she's an unfit mother. It's funny because I was actually at the younger one's basketball game, and they're both, they're 16 and 14, and they look like adults. So even if something happened to me, I feel like they would be all right. Um, and I'm by no means am I an unfit mother, and I never thought I was an unfit mother, but I just thought like when you hear stuff like that, then you're like, the courts can take kids away, and the government can take people away, and whatever. Let's not get into that. But I was at my kid's basketball game in the winter, and I opened up my Google Docs, like a Word document, and I just started typing, and I'm like, I'm no longer afraid of what's going to happen because of their age. But I had been living with that fear for so long. Um and I'm like, there's people that I probably could have helped, like help them realize like all of these things that have happened in your past or any issues that you might have, like it doesn't define you, Like you could be the best mother in the world and still struggle like with mental health issues. And but that was like a really big fear for me, and when I like unlocked that, I was like, holy shit. It's like it felt so fucking freeing. Like it really did. Like a weight was lifted off my soul. And it was funny because my kid came over and he looked over my shoulder because he's that freaking tall, and he like read it, and I wasn't embarrassed to let him read it because like they know, like I don't talk openly a lot about depression or anything, but like, they know I talk about whatever. So I think that I think that there's a lot of people that could help people a lot more if they were less scared of the repercussions. And I don't know. It is scary though. And we live in a litigious society, and we also like right now it's kind of mayhem. And so I would just say, and we'll talk about this in the next episode, but just, using a little bit of strategy when it comes to sharing. But yeah, maybe I'll clip this part and put it in the next episode. Just kidding.
Yeah, no, but I mean, that's so true because there is a lot of vulnerability, right? In being visible and showing up, and you get to decide. Like we talked about in boundaries, like you decide what works for you, how much you're going to share, how deep you want to go. There again is no real right or wrong. We just talked about companies. You don't even know who the CEO is, right? I mean, you can be visible in a lot of ways that aren't too vulnerable, but if that's a part of your brand and you want to be vulnerable, like you can. So it just really, you have to figure out what feels right for you and have your boundaries. Like I mentioned that I work full time. I don't really go no any deeper than that. And there's a reason. I don't want to talk about that much online. I don't want that to be found by anyone where, oh, Carin said, no, 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 she didn't. So like there's a like that's a boundary for me. Like, yes, I share that I work full time because it's relevant to my time constraints, to my boundaries, to the way I show up, to the types of offers I have, all that kind of stuff, because I have to be conscious of how much time I actually have for these activities. But it's not to start talking about my job in any way because I'm not doing that. So, I just that's like you have to think about like what do you want to share? What do you feel fine if like your pastor, your grandma, your favorite client, your prospective client, your kid, like what are you comfortable? Because once it's on the internet, literally cannot get it off. So you do have to think about that and just be really honest with yourself so that again, you are doing what works for you, showing up in the way that's best for you, sharing what you're comfortable with, being as vulnerable as you're okay with being. There is no right or wrong. I know I sound like a broken record, but I feel like that's just really important because we have so many shoulds. Should. Like, there's no should. It's just whatever you feel good with.
All right, let's wrap it up. I need to go cry in a corner. Just kidding. See, Tank is even mad. No. Yeah, I think this was a good conversation, and it's like anything that we bring to business, like it's personal. So,
Hmm.
just, be your own advocate, coach yourself, ask yourself anytime you see yourself playing small or having issues with visibility, ask yourself like, why is this? What is this triggering? Are there any past memories? And see if you can tweak it and do something else, but that'll be
Yeah.
more next week. So, we'll see you then.
Hey, friend, loving this combo?
Then don't keep it to yourself.
Hit that follow button so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling extra generous,
Leave us a quick review. It helps more women find the show, and it honestly means the world to us.
and we really want to connect beyond the podcast. So come say hi on social.